So welcome everyone. Welcome on board again tonight. Today it's Terry Honey here, the founder for Women of Substance SA, and also co-founder with my husband at Victory Praise Chapel. And tonight we're excited because we are embarking on this journey with all the entrepreneurs and those who have the zeal just to go for their dreams and follow their heart. And those who are really true to their calling will remain true to their calling. Stay tuned, listen to the speakers, listen to what they have to say, because these are nuggets and gems that is going to help you transform your life. And also, by listening to their stories, you'll be able to identify and perhaps get out of that place where you feel stuck. We've been running these business breakthrough network events for the past 7 years already. And today, I have a very special couple on our broadcast, and they go back way back from running in our home. And I know they connect and hook up and seek inspiration even from them afterward. Go and follow them on their social media. I like following them. I mean, I like listening to their stories and watching where they're at in the world. And they really trotting the globe all over at that young age. But let's get to introduce them to you tonight. I want to welcome Aldrin and Murlin Bahrain. Welcome you two.
Thank you very much for having us, Terry. We're really excited to be here with you this evening and look forward to engaging on the very important and fantastic topic. So thank you very much for having us.
Awesome. And Murlin?
Thank you so much for having us. This is just such a great opportunity, I think, to just impart some of what we've learned along the journey, and just to be able to talk to you. And you've seen our journey. You've seen us as you mentioned, since we were quite young to where we are now. And the journey's not done yet, but it's just such a great opportunity to be able to just have this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. You know, I know that God always sends people alongside of us on our pathway, and we sometimes wonder, now, what influence or reason is this person in my life for? So as we're traveling in this journey, I know that God sends us resources. He sends us everything we need to complete the mandate that He's given us. So whether you're working in your own business, whether you're a startup, or whether you aspire to start up your own business, or whether you're a successful entrepreneur, there may be something that you need that they are going to share with us today that is going to help you change your perspective maybe, or perhaps change the way you've been doing things. If you haven't seen any change in your work, in your business, maybe it's time for change. Okay. So Murlin and Aldrin, just give us a brief introduction about yourselves, how long you've been married and where you're living now, where you were originally from, and also your career path, where you're at.
So I'll kick us off.
Please.
We are both from Cape Town, South Africa, grew up in the northern suburbs, and down the road from you is where my family home is. And the two of us met in high school. We went and we started dating at the age of 16. In grade 10 is when we started dating. We then both went to UCT, and after UCT, I'll let him talk about that. So I'm a qualified chartered accountant at Deloitte in London, and we currently reside in London. We've been living here for almost 6 years at the end of this year. And this year, at the end of November, we'll be married for 8 years.
Yeah, so it's a long time. We were saying actually the other day that we are getting to a point now where we would have been together for longer than we've not been together. So at a young age of 31, it's quite a daunting realization actually when thinking about that. But it's been a great journey. We've learned a lot, obviously, through our studies. Learned quite a bit with work experience. We've learned quite a lot, and hopefully, as Murlin mentioned earlier, some of the lessons that we're able to share today will help somebody when it comes to sort of entrepreneurship and running your own business. So yeah, that's I guess a brief overview of us and where we are right now.
That's awesome. So what sparked your interest in entrepreneurship?
I'll let Murlin maybe go first.
So I think for me, seeing my initial interest, I guess, as a young girl, was seeing my father start his own business. He started his own business, I think, when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and just seeing his passion around that, he's pushing through the tough times, he's his vision around his business, and changing when he needed to change it, and seeking opportunities. I think that was something that really stuck with me, and I thought it was such a brave thing to do. I saw the risks, I saw the trouble, but I also saw the rewards and the great character that was built through that. So that's what sparked my interest initially.
Yeah, and I think for me, not necessarily that my dad was running his own business, but he was always very passionate about entrepreneurship. And I remember, the days before we had sort of internet at home, he would often come home from work having printed, I don't know, sometimes it felt like 30 pages of just content that he would share with me around entrepreneurs and what people are doing out there, sort of new business opportunities that people are exploring and so forth. And so I think for me, kind of what sparked the interest was very much this sort of educational element around business and entrepreneurship, and sort of the books that my dad got me to read, as well as many, many articles over a number of years. So that kind of, for me, sort of sparked that interest. And obviously, I think hearing stories about entrepreneurs back then, you'd read about someone's biography or autobiography, and you kind of just understand a little bit more about, how they started, what they did, what markets they entered, and all those kinds of things. And I think for me personally, that was quite exciting to read about, and definitely sort of sparked an interest, number one, but also then kind of, I guess that was the beginning of the passion for me with regards to entrepreneurship.
Wow, that's really interesting. It's amazing that both of you had your dads who played such a pivotal role in inspiring you or guiding you, or you watching them, learning from them. And I think that is a good start. And it's also a good thing for dads to take note, dads, to have the conversation. Those conversations are really important. So what made you guys decide to, and I remember this from way back when I don't know if it was before you were married or while you were studying, what made you start? I know you started this t-shirt business. And I thought, wow, that's really great. I always wanted to do a t-shirt company, but tell me what sparked that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think probably the story probably begins with the scholarship program that Murlin and I were both part of throughout our university days. So we were fortunate enough to receive a scholarship from an organization called the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation. And this is an organization that we are still part of today. So we are kind of part of the alumni with sort of fellows all over the world. And this scholarship program, not only did they kind of support us sort of financially with regards to our studies, but the organization really focuses quite significantly on entrepreneurship, and especially working with young people to, I guess, cultivate and develop, one, the passion for entrepreneurship, but then also equipping them with the tools and skills that they need to be able to run businesses successfully. And so I think that was probably the catalyst for the t-shirt business specifically. And so talking more specifically to the t-shirt business, we, after our first year at university, we had some savings that we obviously put away through that time. And, because of this passion for entrepreneurship, as we've discussed earlier, we really wanted to do something in addition to our studies. So we were both studying in a sort of commerce kind of environment. So, Murlin studied accounting, as she said. I studied finance as my undergrad. And so we thought, on top of our studies, we actually want to try and start a business and apply some of the things that we are learning in our university with our studies, but then also, like I said, what we are learning from organizations like the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation. And so going into the t-shirt business specifically, I think there were probably two main things that we considered at the time. The first was, where do we see a market that we could take advantage of? Now, because we were at university, at UCT, we realized very quickly that a lot of the societies and faculties have branded clothing. So they have, every single year, they're printing t-shirts, they're printing hoodies, and various other things that they obviously need someone to deliver that service for them. And so we thought, the fact that we are at UCT gives us an opportunity to be able to take advantage of that opportunity, because we can actually go out to these societies and faculties and offer them the service. And because we were on campus, it might be a bit easier for them, number one, to reach us, and also for us to then obviously get hold of them and be able to sell that service. So that was the first consideration. And then I think the second thing we thought about was, what could we do entrepreneurially now that we could do in addition to our studies? So obviously, university is very demanding, as we all know. And obviously, we didn't want to bite off more than we can chew. And so it was really a question of, what business could we start after our first year that we think we could manage with our studies? And it felt at the time like the t-shirt business was something that we'd be able to do. Now I have to kind of mention that obviously we were not doing the t-shirt printing ourselves, so we had a team that kind of worked with us to try and deliver some of those items. But from an administration perspective, from a client engagement perspective, we were doing a lot of that work ourselves. So this would be kind of us in between lectures, sending emails to clients, working in the evenings, working on weekends to try and get orders fulfilled. But absolutely an exciting journey, something that we absolutely enjoyed. And we actually ran that business for, I think it was about 5-6 years before eventually selling it. So really a great opportunity, and I think it's something that we did back then.
Yeah, but that wasn't your first business.
It wasn't the first business. Yeah. So actually, I mentioned earlier that from a very young age, kind of my dad really drove this entrepreneurial mindset in me with the resources that he provided. I actually, I'm a drummer. So I enjoy music and I play drums. And I think it was the age of about 15 or 16, I actually started a drumming tuition business. So I saw an opportunity within my local church where, there were many young people that were very interested in playing drums, but they didn't necessarily have, somebody to be able to teach them. And so I kind of offered the service where I would teach sort of young students in it. I think the ages were sort of between 8 and 16 at the time. Anybody that really wanted to kind of take advantage and learn a bit more about drumming. So I would offer these lessons in my parents' home in the lounge, have a drum kit set up and work with these young people. And it was fantastic. I think it taught me a lot about, kind of, this was the first time that I was doing this. So it taught me a lot about the importance of things like record keeping, administration, good communication with clients. And obviously you need to do a lot of planning, because when you're doing drumming tuition, you need to think about what you're going to cover. You need to almost put a bit of a curriculum together as they work through that. And so that was the first business that I started. And eventually, given time constraints, so I think it was in my matric year, eventually handed that over to actually one of my students at the time. And he then continued teaching in that specific business and kind of took it forward from there. So yeah, so that's been, I guess, the start of the entrepreneurial journey for me and for Murlin as well.
That's good that you could hand the baton to someone else. It didn't just fall off the trail, so it's good that someone else carried on with it. And then Murlin, while he was doing that after matric, you weren't in the same business because he was doing the drumming intuition. You still didn't have the t-shirt business, or was that now? No, the t-shirt business came after that, right?
After. So we started he did the drumming business. So we were dating at the time, and I just remember him doing homework and then having to jet off after doing homework to go and teach a student, and dealing with invoices with children's parents.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Which was quite interesting. But then the two of us started the printing business together at the end of our first year.
Yeah. And was that very profitable, you say?
The printing business?
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Lots of learning curves in the beginning.
Okay.
More around understanding the fixed costs that are involved with setting up, and really you become profitable when you are able to scale. And so what you're really trying to get those big orders, because your sort of setup cost remains relatively consistent across orders. There are some variable costs like the purchase of t-shirts and that sort of thing, but a big part of the cost is relatively fixed. So just big learning curve around that. And as we got bigger orders, that's when it definitely became more profitable. But also when people are working for you, we, as Aldrin mentioned, we had a team that were doing the actual physical printing, because it's a skill. And but people also make mistakes, and if people do make mistakes, that costs you, and whatever those costs are comes out of your profits at the end of the day that you're going to make, as you know. So a big learning curve, but I think we definitely found our rhythm probably after year 1, 2.
Yeah. And I think one of the stories I would also add is, obviously with business, as many on the call would know, that it has its ups and downs. I remember one of the first kind of downs that we had was our first big order with UCT was in the boot of my vehicle. And on the day that I had to deliver the order, it was in the boot, my vehicle was stolen with the t-shirt order inside it. And it was quite a significant value of the t-shirts itself. So we had to obviously reprint that whole order, which was very expensive to do, number one. But also it was quite stressful because they needed the t-shirts sort of in that week. And that was the first time I realized, things don't always go according to plan. And so it is important to kind of think through, what are your risks that you have in your business, and how do you mitigate some of those risks in the event that something goes wrong. And so I think, that was one of the key lessons that I think we learned quite early on. And we try to then put some process in place to kind of help us in the event that we do get into a similar situation. Maybe not necessarily theft, but just something going wrong with an order, and we need to kind of reprint very quickly. So that was one of the, I guess, the lows, and especially it was the beginning, so it was quite tricky to navigate, but we managed to get through.
Yeah.
Wow, that was quite a huge loss, I'd say. You don't think about that, mitigating the risks in such an event. You can't say, oh well, it's a natural disaster. It's a freaking natural disaster for sure. But I know what I would say, hey, stay with that car until the delivery is done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow, that must have been something. Well, we learn by our mistakes, and we learn. I'm sure you took a big learning from that one.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So did you guys work and study? How did you balance everything? How did you manage that?
So I think we had our business while we were studying. We didn't have jobs in the sense of working in that way, but we definitely worked in our business. But we had so much that we were doing. So we were obviously full-time students, and our degrees were quite demanding. And then we had the business we were running. And then we were also very involved in the church. We were leading up the music ministry at the time, and leading a group of people. So lots that was going on, and our fellow students were just studying. And then there's us studying and everything else. And we'd be in a study group with them on a Wednesday, Thursday night, and the two of us have to get off to either, church band practice, or busy with a t-shirt order, or, our lives are quite busy. But I know there's a saying that busy people get more done. And I think, it was tough to balance everything. We actually often look back and say, oh my word, how did we do that? It's just only grace that we were able to do that. But we really had to learn quite early on how to prioritize and how to make the best use of our time, because you will manage to do everything that you want to do. And if you can't get to something, it's, a lot of the time it's because that's not something that's a priority to you. So we had to really look at our lives. We had to look at our timetable. We had to look at what's important to us, what's our priorities, how do we make sure that we fit in what is a priority to us, and the things that are not priorities, to put that to the side and to sort of make time for that ad hoc as and when we do find the time. So I think just planning and organizational skills is what we had to learn quite early on.
Yeah, and I think I'll probably add to that. I mean, in addition to obviously our undergraduate degree, I just sort of recently submitted my dissertation for my master's. And so I was also working while studying, and running my consulting business. And, I think related to what Murlin is saying, time management is such an important part of I think, achieving success in whatever you are doing, and not only in business, but in lots of different areas. And I think, when I think through how I've been able to manage over the last 2 years, of course, it's been very challenging sort of running the business and studying over the last 2 years. But I think that, one of the things that's quite important is being disciplined, is thinking how you use your time. And, in a very practical sense, I kind of spend time sort of every single day at the end of the day, thinking through and planning what I'm going to do sort of the next day, and then allocating time to be able to do that. And at the end of that day, kind of checking through the tasks that I set up for myself and completing that. And I think, if you're planning your time and how you're going to use your time, I think that does help a lot with trying to balance the different areas in life, because we know that, life is busy. There's a lot going on. You're always doing more than one thing. But I think that, if you understand everything that you need to do and you plan accordingly, and obviously using your time as something that you reflect on in terms of how you're going to use that, I think that plays a big role in actually doing everything that you set out to do and actually achieving success in a lot of areas.
Mm-hmm. Speaking about time management, we know a lot of people have problems in those areas, and we always say, I like to use the term personal management. So I think if you can manage your own life well and be in sync, then everything will fall into place. And I mean, I admire the two of you for holding all these balls in the air, not missing out and not forgetting and being present where you're supposed to be. The thing that I'm thinking of with the two of you is, do you share calendar? Do you share your calendar with each other?
From a work perspective, we don't, because obviously we do sort of different things from work, but from a social perspective, we do, because a lot of our social activities would be together. And so often we would find ourselves, if there's something that comes in from a social activity perspective, Merlin's generally the one kind of organizing all of that. I'm not too involved, but I see the calendar and I know what is happening. So yes, we do. So from a social perspective, we are aligned in terms of from a calendar perspective.
And anything basically outside of core work, so any other commitments that we have,
church commitments, etc.
We have a shared calendar there, but then from a sort of 9 to 5, our calendars are set.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, that's worked, because after hours, it's still valuable hours, because you can be so busy with other things. I'm so grateful. I'm not going to market the kind of phone that I have, because they're not paying me for it. So I'm saying the new technology today, it's so awesome, because you can put some in your calendar, so invite and then share your calendar, because we've got a family sharing thing. Whatever I put in my calendar could be family, work, personal and private, or whatever, so they see my calendar. If it's anything to do with a family, they know where I'm at, which is really cool. And that's so nice. There's so many things, and technology today is leading so toward helping people manage their days so they don't miss out on anything important. That's very, very important part that you just mentioned there. So if you wanted to say, speaking from a study perspective, to a second year student, for example, who really wants to give up, because we've seen them want to give up in third year even, they're just about to come to a close, or perhaps halfway in their career, what would you say to them if they have a desire to be an entrepreneur, even just studying for this moment? Because a lot of them have grown cold or despondent during this time with the pandemic. What would you say to such a student?
So I think I heard another quote, and I do love quotes, that said, "You've overcome 100% of your worst days." And I think that whatever, if you look at your life, what you're currently facing and the difficulties that you're currently facing always seem like it is completely overwhelming. But if you look at the track record of your life, where you've had, troubling times, big challenges in your life, you've made it, you've overcome it, you've made it to this point where you are right now. You've overcome 100% of those, regardless of how terrible they felt. And so I think it's so important, when you are in the moment and you are feeling like this is everything and this is overwhelming and you can't handle it, to just remember that you've come through difficult times before and that you can do it again. And I think what got us through just studies in general, and studies are, and also just in entrepreneurship, it's really challenging. There's lots of disappointments. You have to stay focused, and sometimes you don't make it with the test. And there are students that have had to repeat years and repeat certain courses, and it's really hard to not take that setback as something that just completely stops you. But I think what's important is, if you keep your eye on your vision and on the motivation behind why you are doing what you are doing, whether that be to help your family, those around you, to create a better life for yourself, to be generous, to just whatever your motivation is, that vision that you have, to remind yourself of that on those tough days where you're looking at that book and you're thinking, I don't know what is going on in here. None of this can go in. To just keep your eye on that and just remember why, the motivation behind what you're doing. Even, post studies now, I'm working in corporate. There's lots of challenging things that I encounter every day. But when you keep your eyes on the why really helps you get back to be able to deal with what's going on now, and then just remembering that you've overcome before.
Yeah, I think probably what I would add in addition to what Merlin said, and I think that is such good advice, is having sort of a long-term perspective on why you are doing what you're doing. And I think that's what's kept me in my undergrad, and also when I did my master's now, is having that long-term mindset around the benefit that what you are doing today is going to provide for you in future. You know, if you think about a typical undergraduate degree or diploma, it's sort of three to 4 years that you are studying. But actually, you know, it's really building the foundation and setting yourself up for many, many years to come. And if you think about how many years you spend studying and how many years you end up using that qualification as part of your work, you quickly realize that, you know, if you do the math, the sacrifice you're making in those 3 to 4 years can really set you up very well for the many years that you are still going to be on this earth. And so for me, what's quite important is always, as you're going through those difficult moments, one, as Merlin mentioned, reflecting on the why, and two, taking a step back and remembering the bigger picture and thinking about the fact that you are building a foundation today that's going to set you up for many, many years to come. And so in those moments, hopefully that would be an encouragement to many out there.
Awesome. Remembering the why. What made you start this journey, you know? And we got to be able to endure to the end, be a finisher.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I think that's very powerful. I know someone is grabbing something here tonight from this, what you're sharing. So, Murlin, since you have been going through your entrepreneurial journey and still where you are now, and I know going forward, you guys are probably going to blossom in all of that there. What advice would you give to a budding entrepreneur?
Do you want to start that?
There you go. No, it's fine. Okay, maybe I'll go. I think probably one of the things I would say is to start. I think, you know, one of the things that I think hold people back quite often, and I do some consulting work speaking to individual entrepreneurs as well. So we do sort of these monthly sessions where we talk through, you know, various things. Either they want to start a business or it's entrepreneurs who are wanting to kind of grow their business, etc. And one of the things I've noticed in some of the work that I do is that, you know, one of the things holding people back really is just starting, like actually just doing what you say you want to do. I think a lot of the time we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about how we want to start a business, but if you really do want to do that, literally just get started. And you don't have to start a major corporation from day one. Start small and take that first step and actually get going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, and then I think just I guess adding to that is don't take away from learning and what learning can really contribute towards your entrepreneurial journey. I think, as Aldrin said, what's really important is take that first step and start, but then understand that we live in a world where there's technology. We live in a world where there's so many resources online. There are hopefully people around you, you know, a platform like this that you've put together, Terry, and you know, what's really important is these things are out there. These resources are out there. Learn as much as you can. Try and learn from other people's mistakes. Try and learn from other people's challenges that they've had to overcome in business. You know, if there is a course that you can do that's even, you know, a 3 or 4 month course while you are busy on your entrepreneurial journey, you know, why not do it? If something comes up and an organization is offering something, just be somebody who wants to be a sponge in terms of taking in as much learning opportunities as you can, because it's only beneficial, and it limits all of the mistakes that you would then have had to go through if you didn't learn that. And there's lots that you will learn on the job, so to speak, but really there's so much that you can take from the resources that are out there.
Yeah, maybe just one more point, if I may, related to this element of learning is, I think there's so much power in having a mentor. So if you have someone in your life that can kind of guide you and lead you because they've actually walked that road already, I think it goes such a long way. Again, reiterating what Merlin has mentioned around limiting the number of mistakes you make, I think, you know, you will have challenges on your journey, but if you can limit that and a mentor can help with that, I think it will go a long way in helping you to achieve the success that you want to achieve as an entrepreneur. And from an encouragement perspective, I think the reality is that people have done it before you. And so if anyone is out there and they're wondering whether they have the ability or the capabilities, the networks, the education and experience, just remember that somebody else has done this before. And that should encourage you to say, you have the ability, you can do it. So that's more just on, I guess, a softer side, just to encourage people to say that, give it a try, start, do something, and you'll be surprised by some of the results that you'll see.
That's amazing. It's really powerful. I like that. I think a lot of people just procrastinate, and they just need a kick under their butt to say, hey, start. If you don't start, you're never going to get to it. I think a lot of people also maybe because they have the fear of the unknown. And I feel like if they have a mentor or a coach or someone who can help them and just help them navigate to where they need to be to get that boldness and courage to start somewhere. And then when they hit the top, they'll start running. I tell you what, that's I've seen people have come. I've got a few people I'm still coaching and mentoring, and I see that, how they evolve and how they just get to that point of launch. It's like, whoa, I get so excited each time I see someone's win. I just celebrate with them.
Yeah,
I'm celebrating with the two of you. I'm so proud of you, So you always be a conversation in our home amongst our girls because you've been friends for all these years,
Yeah.
So let me just ask you this other question quickly. I've been thinking about the time that you guys have left university and married for 8 years. I couldn't believe it when you said that. I'm like, oh my gosh, time has gone by so fast. My gosh, 8 is a number of covenant, like new beginnings and all of that. But 8 is a good number. So since you guys have left university,
so
you want to go first? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll start. When I left university, I got a training contract at Deloitte in Cape Town. And that was a 3-year contract that is part of my overall qualification as a chartered accountant. And so I worked at Deloitte Cape Town for 3 years. In that time, I had to write 2 board exams, national board exams. And at the end of that 3 years, I qualified as a chartered accountant. After that, I received an offer from Deloitte London to come over and work in London. And that's when we jetted off to London. And since I've been at London, I've been at Deloitte. I started off as an assistant manager. I then worked and got promoted to a manager, and I'm now a senior manager within Deloitte London. And I'm an auditor, and I work on big listed, large and complex groups in London. It's a really challenging area, but it's something that's really interesting. And I also within Deloitte work on a number of communities and encouraging diversity and inclusion and future female leaders. I do a lot around training and mentoring future female leaders and just diversity within the workplace. And so that's what I've done, and I'm now a senior manager.
From my side, I think I mentioned earlier that I did my undergraduate degree in finance, and so when I left university, I worked for an investment management company called a big sort of asset manager in South Africa. Spent 3 years with them, sort of doing a variety of roles. And then when we moved to London, this was at the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, I got an offer from a company, so again, still within the finance space, worked for them as a reporting analyst. And then sort of 2 to 3 years after that, I moved into a consulting kind of role, which is aligned to some of the work that I'm doing today. So worked for another firm called Cerulli Associates, which is a strategy kind of consulting and research company. So we work with sort of a lot of managers, investment managers around the globe. So part of my role involved kind of the nice part, I would say, was sort of traveling different countries to different countries in Europe, talking to sort of very senior leaders in these organizations as we were doing some of these projects. So that was a fantastic experience. And then when I started my MBA 2 years ago, I decided to do consulting work sort of for myself, so to set up a business here within the UK. And we do some work in South Africa as well, but kind of really setting up what we're doing in the UK. And so part of my work now is really helping companies with their strategy. So that could involve anything from understanding their competitive landscape, thinking through what their future plans are and whether they are equipped to be able to achieve some of those plans, when companies want to make, for example, acquisitions, so they want to buy other companies, I kind of help them to think through what might be a good company that they should buy. So those are some examples of some of the projects that I've done. And then, like I said, obviously from an education perspective, I've just sort of finished off my MBA a few weeks ago. So yeah, that's kind of what I've done since leaving university.
Wonderful. So, you know what? There's no limitation. You know, the world is your oyster. Go and just soar. There's so much to do. You know, I don't think anyone can say that they are bored or they don't know what they want.
Yeah,
you know?
There's lots.
There's so much. I'm very impressed. I'm excited also, you know, for the learning that have taken place and the growth that both of you have developed over the years. And also, I think the most important thing is association. You know, I always say to my girls and to everyone I meet, I said, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I think that still rings true for anyone today, you know. I like that part, Murlin, that you also, and I think this is going to probably be another part of our journey going forward for the future female leaders. You know, I like that. Since we are doing this broadcast on Women's Day, you know, it is not just empowering women entrepreneurs, but also I don't like to just speak about one part of the human race. You know, I think the men and women complement each other. So I don't single it out. You know, our women of substance is for women and men. But today being a Women's Day, you know, is there something that you can say to the future female leaders, Murlin?
You've got everything inside of you to be able to succeed. And don't shy away from that. I think as you said, Terry, you know, I also don't like this big distinction and this big thing of, you know, we're just placing focus on women and we're not throwing men to the wayside. But recognizing that women do have many women struggle with just confidence and knowing and trusting your abilities and your skills and what you bring to the table. And you bring so much to the table. And even if you know, all of the experiences in your life, and even if you are a working mom and you think that, oh, that's, you know, how could I contribute in any other aspect? There's so many skills that you learn from that you can contribute in so many organizations and just within your own initiatives. And so don't doubt the abilities that you have on the inside of you. And don't feel like you have to be a man. You are a woman. And you are made, fearfully and wonderfully made, and you just have to be yourself, and don't try to be like a man or don't try to be like anyone else. And if you're not the biggest loudmouth, then you don't have to be the biggest loudmouth. You don't have to be the loudest in the room to be the most impactful in the room. And so it's really important that you just bring your authentic self. And this is part of the work that I'm doing in London with a lot of females. It's just bring your authentic self to the table, because when you bring your authentic self to the table, you do bring the best version of yourself. And then that's when you actually truly demonstrate your skills and what you have to offer. But it's when you try and copy and try and mimic what you've seen before that you can sometimes fall short and then lose confidence in yourself. But it's not that you don't have the ability, it's that you just need to be authentic in knowing what you bring to the table and offering that to those around you.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. You're speaking my language. You sound like you're already in our academy. So, let me just ask you, I'm going to come to a close and very shortly, I want to ask you one last question. What benefits, and I can see a lot on your social media, some of it, but what benefits are you enjoying most in your life right now?
Yeah, I think, you know, we've obviously talked quite extensively in this conversation about from a work, studies, etc. perspective. And I think, you know, on that front, that's been a big benefit for us. We've built a good foundation, I think, with some of our education and our studies. And that's given us sort of significant opportunities in our careers, which has been great. Do you want to talk a bit more about as I said, Murlin does manage the social calendar. She can probably speak a bit more to the social side of things.
Well, I think moving to London was great. We came just wanting to get some international experience. We never, we never left thinking we're not coming back, but we got some, as Alan said, just opportunities while we were here, and here we are almost 6 years later. And so living in London and just the exposure to such a big economy has been something that's been really great and such a learning curve. One of on the lighter side, we absolutely love traveling. And every opportunity that we get, that we've traveled, so we've been able to travel around the world, whether it be from a work perspective. I've traveled to Australia, Singapore, everywhere basically, and in Europe we've traveled quite a bit. You travel from work perspective, but then just personally, we traveled a lot of countries in Europe, and it's just that's been really amazing. It's something that we've always wanted to do, even just growing up. I remember growing up, I used to see Greece on TV, and I just would dream of placing my feet in Greece and being able to see it. And as soon as when we moved over in 2016, our first proper holiday was in Greece for my birthday, and it was just such a surreal experience, having grown up and seeing all of this on TV, and sort of putting yourself there and imagining yourself there. That was just such a great experience. So we really have enjoyed traveling. It's probably one of the biggest benefits that we enjoy in terms of living in London also.
Nice. Yeah, it's a nice place to get set from. I mean, it's you don't have to go via London, you go anywhere, you're there, and
absolutely
you seize the moment, while you're there. I'm really happy for you about that. So you have enough time to spend quality time on yourself. I don't like the term self-love, sounds so vain, but you take care of yourself. I rather call it self-care. I think God loves us so much that we have enough love inside of us to love everyone else, but we have to learn to love ourselves first. And that is so important. Even in the kind of work that you do, I hear both of you are like having this burning the grind kind of thing, burning candles on both ends as well. And it can be very tiring and get you to a place of mental and emotional, physical, spiritual weariness, So your time out is basically your watering hole where you guys just go and be refreshed. I love some of the places you go to. I'm like, where on earth are these two now? I just want to see more pictures of the places you're at, You know me, I love photography, so I'm all over wherever it comes to beautiful scenery. So I've snatched some of your photos, and you'll see some of them are flashing through our talk while we are speaking. So they've been put in there strategically, what we are speaking about. So just in closing, tell me, what do you think others will say about you one day? What would you like to hear them say?
I would like to hear others say that they were inspired by me, especially the younger people. So people within my family, the young kids within my family, outside of my family, every person that I may have encountered, or they may have even just seen about me on social media. Just that I would really love that there were a group of people that saw me and said, if she can do it, I can do it. If she can study, if she can get through a degree, if she can, do that, then I can also do that. And that it just inspires them to push forward and realize that they could also do it. And then I'd also love people to say that I was generous and that I was outward focused and cared about those around me, cared about the people in my life, cared about others, and not just focusing on my own personal journey, but also bringing people along with me as far as possible and trying to just be outward focused and helping others around.
I think for me, it's probably one of the things I would like to be kind of remembered for is living life to the full in everything that I'm doing. So I like to think of my life in kind of different, let's call it segments, basically. But in every single area, whether it's work, family life, friends, social things that I'm doing, I really want to be, live it to the full and do as much as I can in this time that I have on earth. And then secondly, as a Christian, as a believer, I want people to remember me as someone who loved God, and also in my Christian walk, gave everything that I could, and lived for God as fully as I could on this earth in the time that I was here. So yeah, those are the two things I would say.
That's wonderful. I really like that. And I'm glad for the fact that you're so honest and open about it, because people sometimes shy away from, what they really want to be known as. And that is really courageous and bold, and just shows your confidence you have in what you do and who you are, that who God made you to be. And you are so unique and authentic and just who you are in God, because of what He's placed in you. So I just want to say, Murlin and Aldrin, thank you so much for your valuable time that you've offered in your social calendar.
It was in the social calendar too.
Yes. Thank you, Murlin, for managing it so well and working out the time when I was available and your availability. And all I said to the Lord was, Father, let it be in your perfect time. So I believe everything is now in His perfect time that we could get together. And I know that so many people are blessed by what you've shared here, Murlin and Aldrin, and we will pray for you and continue to bless you on your journey as you embark on the new endeavors and ventures that the Lord placed before you. And may you do that with wisdom. I pray Colossians 1:9 over the two of you, that you'll do everything gaining wisdom from the Lord as well. I love Proverbs 4 speaks about that, gain with wisdom, gain understanding. So as you go with God. So we just want to thank you and applaud you for the wonderful, tenacious people that you are, and courageous people that you are, going for your goals and reaching your full potential in Christ. So I thank you so much. Do you want to say last so long before we close up?
Yeah, just a big thank you, Terry, for having us on this platform. As we said in the beginning, it is a huge honor and a privilege to speak to you today, and to everyone listening as well. We hope that from what we have shared in I think it was about an hour, that you have gained something from this, and we hope that it will do two things. One, I think one of our hopes coming onto this platform is that it will inspire you in some way. No matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, education journey, wherever you are in your life, we hope that it will inspire you. And I think the second thing is really, hopefully, there are some practical keys that you've taken away around how you can improve some of the things that you are involved in your life, whether that be business, studies, work, etc. So, thank you so much for having us, Terry. This has been an absolute pleasure. And hopefully we can do it sometime soon again.
Absolutely. You can be rest assured. I'll definitely be calling your number again. I just want to say thank you to all of our sponsors tonight for paying it forward, for those who would love to be at the in-person event this day on this morning's breakfast that we had. So thank you for paying it forward for those persons, and for sharing what you have from your resources to help someone else in their journey to build their business. We thank you, and we look forward to seeing you and listening to the next entrepreneur when we interview them as you log on to the next broadcast. Good night, and thank you so much. Terry Honey signing out from Women of Substance SA, saying God will never leave us alone. He is the CEO of this business, and I'm just a managing director. Whatever He directs me, I will do for Him gladly. Amen. Love you all. Murlin, one last word from you?
No, just thank you for having us. Thank you for inviting us and giving us this opportunity to really share what we've learned along our journey. And as I mentioned, I think at the beginning, the journey is not over, but it's always such a great moment to just pause and reflect and to be able to share that with others. And thank you for the work that you continue to do in this area relentlessly for so many years. It's amazing, and I know it helps so many people. So it's just been just such an opportunity to be part of that with you.
Amen. Thank you so much. Anyway, good night, Murlin and Aldrin. May you have a blessed day further.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.